I think it's unacceptable that so many people feel expecting to be unhappy at work is just the norm nowadays. And we expect hospitality to grow. We need a pipeline of job seekers who are going to sustain the industry into the future. Operators really need to look at the environment and the culture that they lay on for people.
It's often said that people are at the heart of hospitality, and today we're dedicating our whole episode to truly understanding their well-being. We'll be discussing some vital and at times challenging new research that every leader in our sector needs to be aware of.
Hello, Jane. Thank you for having me. Lovely to be with you.
Hey, Mark. Good to see you.
And you, Jane.
Thank you. Your charity is a lifeline for so many in our industry, providing support during the toughest of times. This new research you've just published, Taking the Temperature 2025, feels more important than ever. I think it's the fourth year you've conducted this survey, and it's become a critical barometer for the mood in the UK hospitality workforce. The report is a snapshot of how our colleagues are feeling and the challenges they're facing right now, and we're really grateful you're here to discuss the findings with us. So can we start at the very beginning? Before we dive into the 2025 results, could you tell us what was the original catalyst for this research back in, I think, 2018, and how its purpose has evolved to become this highly regarded wellbeing barometer?
Yeah, sure. Thank you, Jane. Absolutely. So if I take you back to 2018, I had a really quite a powerful and transformative day in my understanding, my learning process of what goes on in hospitality and what I will was that hospitality action in terms of supporting the industry. I was called by two eminent chef restaurateurs on the same day. The first one called me to say, please, can hospitality help us? One of the chefs on our team has taken their own life, and we're absolutely in bits. We're devastated. We don't know how to cope. We don't know what to say to the team and how to move on from this, how to process and compute it. And then about an hour later, another eminent chef contacted me and said, exactly the same, except he said that somebody works on our team and their partner has taken their own life. So it quickly became clear that we were talking about the same issue, the same person. And it was just such a powerful and difficult day. Now we have facility for helping teams deal with these sorts of awful happenings. So we went about our business and we put in place what we call critical incident training, so we can drop in a counsellor very quickly to help people compute what's happened to them and make sense of it and move on from such a difficult thing happening. But it just left me thinking, this can't stand. We can't continue to have so many mental health crashes in hospitality and so many people getting to the point where all they can think of is that taking their own life is the only recourse. There are still far too many suicides in the country and in the world and in the industry, primarily around young males. And so this just set us thinking, and it set the horses racing. And we thought, what could we do as a charity to really up the ante and get people talking about mental well-being? So I think this was part of our initial steps towards getting mental well-being talked about more in the workplace. And I think we all know that that's a problem. People do find it difficult to talk openly about mental health challenges. And I think back in the day, I think things are improving, and I think we saw that in the research findings. But back in the day, we were rather concerned to see that operators and managers and employers weren't putting in place the sorts of culture that allowed people to feel they could speak up. So this research was, I guess, a line in the sand. It gave us a baseline of where the industry was, and from there, on a regular basis, we've updated it to see how things are moving on. To stay in business, operators are having to really focus on business continuity in order to survive. That's been the case since the pandemic, which sent such shockwaves through hospitality. The cost of living crisis since then, and the impact on pricing for operators has taken its toll as well. So I think the backdrop and the context is that operators are having to work harder than ever just to stay alive and to survive. And I think we should bear in mind that what they're trying to do is keep a business running and also therefore continue to employ people. So, it's absolutely right that they should take the steps that they are doing to ensure business survival. But I think what we're seeing is a close correlation between working conditions and mental well-being. And I guess we can all relate to that. If you feel you're working harder, if you feel you're working under longer hours, you're working under greater stress and pressure. That's inevitably going to turn into anxiety. It's going to stop you sleeping as well at night. It's going to erode. It's going to nibble away at your mental well-being. So I think that whole issue of under-resourcing and staffing issues is clear to see. People are being laid off, hours are being cut, stress. I think also then there's the spectre of redundancy. If you feel that you're seeing people around you being laid off and you're having to take the slack for them, well, what's to say that you might not be the next person who loses their job? So I think we're just seeing an environment where people are really feeling the stress of external circumstances. Kate at UK Hospitality is quoting, I think, 69,000 jobs lost since those changes were made back in April. And clearly that's the implications of those changes are biting, because the fewer people working are having to work that much harder.
It's those fewer people doing more than they were already doing. They were probably already working at the max.
Exactly.
One of the most concerning statistics that I read was nearly half, I think it was 47% to be exact, of the respondents, and it was actually 62% for junior employees, now feel that burnout is simply part of the job, which is shocking. What does a finding like that tell you about the current state of the industry's culture?
I guess I'd preface this by saying, we're not here to judge employers, and we know what a difficult time it is for employers. So that's not our role here. I think we're just flagging up the reality of what the situation is. And we focus on the individual. That's our role here at Hospitality Action, to keep people happy, healthy, and productive and work ready. So, that's where the employer wins out as well. But I have to say, I think it's unacceptable that so many people feel expecting to be unhappy at work is just the norm nowadays. And I think we need to look long and hard at that. I think we need to look at into the future as well. If we expect hospitality to grow, and we know it's going to, more of us are spending time out of home, eating and drinking out of home and staying out of home. Hospitality will always continue to grow. But if that's the case, and we know it is, then we need a pipeline of job seekers who are going to sustain the industry into the future. And then we have to think very hard about how we attract good people into the industry. It's a seller's market. There are lots of jobs out there. So if you're looking for work in hospitality, you're going to go towards the places that offer more attractive working conditions, a better working culture, a fair workload, some flexibility in terms of how and when you work. So they're worrying statistics, and I think the knock-on effect is that operators really need to look at the environment and the culture that they lay on for people. A choreography around the workplace, around the hospitality business that works for all parties, so that guests and customers enjoy the experience, but also you avoid pinch points. So, for example, I was thinking about this question before our conversation began. We've all been in a long and frustrating queue at check-in, and we all get hot under the collar, hot and bothered. We've been on a long flight. We want to check in. We want to have a shower and just have a lie down on the bed. But actually, it's taken forever and a day to check in. And guess what? The people behind the counter are feeling just as stressed, because they've got a long queue of angry and anxious people in front of them. So, there's an example where tech is an enabler. Let's use technology to improve the check-in process. And then I guess also in terms of shift patterns and workforce management, again, tech clearly comes into play to make sure that we are covering the ebb and flow of the day parts, so that we've always got the right number of people at the right time, and we're always able to give wonderful hospitality, but also not at the expense of the working life of the people giving it.
When I was reading through the report, I could feel the tension from the respondents in some areas. And on one hand, it's fantastic. I always try to look for the positives, that 78% of people feel more comfortable discussing mental health than 5 years ago. And I don't think that's unique to hospitality. I think that's a nationwide thing, possibly even global thing. But on the other hand, 63%, I think it was, remain concerned that vocalizing a mental health challenge could negatively impact their career progression. Have you got any solutions at Hospitality Action that would bridge that gap between growing openness and sort of the fear as well that's continuous?
Yeah, I mean, I guess I would say this, but sometimes pointing people to a third party can help. Ideally, you'd have a culture in place where people feel empowered and comfortable speaking to a manager, a line manager, or a boss, and saying, "Hey, do you know what? I've got a bit of a problem. Can you help me?" So that should always be the nirvana. That's what one should work towards. Alongside that, people do sometimes say there's a confidentiality issue. They don't feel entirely comfortable speaking to somebody within the business because they might think that it's going to have an impact on their career trajectory. So therefore, why not have, for example, and other EAPs do exist, but we have what we think is a market-leading employee assistance program, which means that you've got recourse outside the confines of the business to speak to expert clinicians who can help you with the issues you're going through, and you've got that reassurance that you're not speaking to somebody who's got skin in the game. You're not speaking to somebody within the business. So I think that's what we can bring to the party. We give operators a chance to bring in tools that they can point people to, so that they can have those conversations without worrying that their boss is going to make decisions based upon those conversations. I think the world is changing. I think we all realize that we need to safeguard our mental well-being. And I think we all struggle to some greater or lesser extent with our mental health. We've all had periods of sleepless nights. We've all had stress at work. So it's a spectrum. You're on a scale from 1 to 100, and we're all somewhere on that scale. So I think we all need to be kind to one another and be nourishing and understand that this is just part of being a human being. It's part of being alive. There will be happy times and there'll be times when we struggle. And I think we just need to pull together and help people get through these periods. We need to skill up managers. We need to give them the tools that they need in order to be able to support people through personal mental health challenges. But I think we also need to be cognizant of the fact that people become managers not because they're empathetic and they're necessarily. Often the fact is people get promoted because they're good at doing a job, and then they can continue to do that job, and then they manage other people who do that job. So sometimes people end up promoted for the wrong reasons. So, I think we need to understand that too. I'm going to quote who's looking after the managers, that they need recourse themselves. They're not experts in their stuff. That's not what got them their promotion. They're experts because they run damn good F&B or they run a damn good hotel. They need to skill up, of course, but they need to be given support. And again, HA can help with that. We have tools to support managers so that when they have an issue that they don't know how to deal with, they can come to us. And why should they know all this? This is serious stuff. This is sometimes clinically difficult stuff. So they need to be able to speak to somebody else who can say, "We've got your back. We can help you through this, and we can help you give the right advice to your team members who are struggling."
Yeah, we've got your back. I love that as your tagline. It's fantastic. Yeah. Those of us that have been in the industry for some time know about the fabulous work that Hospitality Action does. And the pandemic, I think, shone a really bright light on that with lots of individual cases, which was fantastic. But finally, really, Mark, having gathered from this report, these powerful and at times difficult to read findings, how will hospitality be using the 2025 Taking the Temperature report to shape its own services and advocacy work in the year ahead? Are you making changes? You're already fabulous. I don't know what you can do to improve it, but you may have ideas.
Well, you're very kind. Yeah, you're really kind. I've got a wonderful team that do wonderful work, but we have to evolve our services all the time, not just around mental health, but just generally how we support the industry that we serve. I'll give you one example, which doesn't touch on mental health specifically, but it's an example of evolution. So we've always talked about the financial impact that we have on the industry, and that when we speak in terms, or we calculate in terms of the money we give away every year. As of last year, we've now got a welfare benefits advocacy expert in-house who is helping people to get in touch to unlock the welfare benefits that they're entitled to. The welfare state, it can be very, very opaque. If English isn't your first language, or if you've got an issue with dyslexia, for example, it's almost impossible to get what's yours. Last year, I think the figure is £23 billion of unclaimed benefits in the welfare state. So we're now helping people unlock the money that's available, that should rightfully be theirs, which is a really exciting evolution. And that's something we're going to build on. We're also adding products to the employee assistance program. We recognize that people are working hard. They can't always get away. They can't spare the hours necessarily if they're on a 0-hours contract to get away from the office to go down to the GPs. We know how hard it is to get an appointment at the surgery, to see a doctor these days. So we'll be introducing a digital GP service in October, just to allow people to continue to work, which helps them and they're paid back. But also helps the employer for continuity and not having to go out to agency staff, so they can go online through our EAP, speak to somebody who's clinically sound, and then if need be, get prescriptions from them. So that's another evolution that we're looking at the moment. We also think that to create a culture, a nourishing culture in the workplace, it's very important that you recognize success and you reward success. So we're going to be introducing a new tool, a rewarding recognition platform, which allows operators and allows employees within an operation to say well done on this platform to one another. So Jane, I could send you a note on the platform saying thanks so much, what a brilliantly run webinar or podcast that was. And then at the end of the month, we'll pull together all of these messages, which have all been shared universally, so everyone is seeing and sharing success. And then at the end of the month, you can have a draw and a raffle and say, right, of all the people who've received recognition, one of them is going to win a £100 voucher for whatever. So that's a lovely product, we think, which is going to have real value in terms of building a culture of reward and recognition and gratitude.
Yes, I totally agree. I think tech will be an enabler, but it should really be sort of back of house, because you do need that human touch. And without that, and maybe the guest needs choice from time to time. If they're not in the mood to have a conversation, they just want to check in online, great, let them, but give them the choice to interact if they want to.
That's back to the human touch, because you need a human being to discern, what does this guest want? This guest at the end of the bar wants to chat about what his or her day's been like. This guest at the other end of the bar wants to be left alone to read the Standard or the Metro, and that takes a human touch to judge that, doesn't it?
Absolutely, completely, it does. And that's why we're all in hospitality, and that's why those of us that love it are good at it, hopefully. Mark Lewis, we'll use your full name just in case anyone didn't catch it at the beginning. Thank you so much for sharing invaluable and honest insights with us today. And as I've already said, the work you do is essential, it's commendable, it's fabulous. But this report is a real call to action for all of us. For those listening today, you can find the full report and you can have a look at it and learn more about the charity's work at hospitalityaction.org.uk.
I was going to say thank you. I was going to say thank you to Agilicis. As I always say, we can only be as supportive as our supporters are generous. So, and you've been great supporters and continue to be great supporters of our charity. So thank you, Jane, with your HOSPA on as well. That's absolutely the case for you. So thank you both for supporting us.
Thanks. Bye-bye.
Thank you very much.